right, Laura Italiano of Business Insider joins me now. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining in on CNN News 18. Now, why is Sean Combs still not granted bail yet? That's the big question that everybody's asking.
Well, Mr. Combs is trying very hard through his lawyers to be freed from what is described as a rather dismal Brooklyn federal jail. He has made two bail applications in the lower federal court, both denied after federal prosecutors called him a flight risk and violent and a risk to intimidating witnesses and interfering, obstructing justice. Two judges, first a magistrate judge and then a second successor judge, have sided with prosecutors in keeping him in. Just tonight, Tuesday night, he has filed through his attorneys an appeal of the bail denial, and he is asking again, to be freed on a $50 million bond, for which he would put up his family house, his house in Miami.
Laura, why is Diddy seeing his third judge, that too in a month, on Thursday?
He is on his third judge in this case, and it's only been since the middle of September that he was arrested. Nothing nefarious about that. Judge number one was a magistrate judge who heard his initial appearance. That's routine. Then you get your trial judge. In this case, the original trial judge was, I'm hearing, just too busy to keep the case, given that Mr. Combs is asking for an immediate trial as soon as possible. So that is why the case has been now given over to a Judge Arun Subramanian. That is why the case is now in the hands of a third judge, a U.S. District Court Judge Arun Subramanian, who is now going to be the one to handle pretrial and trial if it does go to trial.
Also, Laura, do shed light on the routine protective order which was issued on Monday that notes, of course, the sensitivity of some of the photographic video evidence and barring the parties from sharing it with anybody outside the defense.
So the new judge's first action in this case has been to issue what's usually a routine protective order concerning evidence in the case. It's very common in federal cases and in state cases in the United States for a judge to set limits on how much of the evidence in the case can be shared by either party. And in this case, it's especially important. And this protective order in the Combs case sets very strict limits on what will be attorney's eyes only evidence, given that this case is replete with video evidence, including, evidence of these sexual performances that Combs is accused of orchestrating.
Laura, are Sean Diddy Combs' celebrity friends quietly settling with victims to fend off lawsuits? How could this impact this lawsuit, or perhaps more that ought to be filed?
Well, we're bracing for an onslaught of, we in the media are bracing for an onslaught of civil lawsuits. There may be more than 100 that are going to be filed in locations, from locations throughout the United States through various accuser lawyers, victim lawyers. So Yeah, while the federal prosecution, the criminal prosecution proceeds on a parallel path, are going to be numerous civil lawsuits brought by accusers who will claim, in these lawsuits that Combs victimized them as well.
How is Diddy's legal defense shaping up in your view, Laura? That he is a sex freak, not a criminal. What kind of a line are they now going to pick? Is Combs' team building a defense, one that argues that the women who were sexually involved with Diddy did so consensually, that too for money, career, or attention?
Yes, I'm expecting a two-prong defense. Prong one is that the behavior that is being described in his indictment, these sexual performances that Combs allegedly orchestrated, enjoyed, very elaborate, produced performances that he directed and often recorded, were consensual events. That's going to be the first prong. Um, you don't have a victim if everyone is agreeing to the conduct. Uh, the other prong is to attack the accusers. So far, we only know of one lead primary accuser. Um, and her name is Cassie Ventura. She's a singer that Combs had a 10-year relationship with. And really, right from day one, the defense has been attacking her credibility, saying that she has um, been in a long-term loving relationship that's been strained by what the defense called, quote, mutual infidelity and jealousy, and that the relationship was mutually toxic, and that she sought a $30 million payday from Combs by threatening to expose him through a tell-all book, and also, sued him for a very large settlement.
Laura, what's different about Sean Diddy Combs' indictment, especially when compared to other high profile alleged abusers like Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby?
Okay, so this is the part where you were interested in hearing about, there were two very high profile, um, sexual offense pattern um, prosecutions. Harvey Weinstein was one, and Bill Cosby was the other. In both those cases, prosecutions were or convictions were overturned on appeal. Um, and I can understand you being curious, is this just what happens with high profile, highly lawyered up cases in New York, where celebrities are accused of, longstanding patterns of horrific sex crimes, that they're just overturned due to good lawyering. Um, well, there is a big difference between the Cosby and Weinstein cases and the Combs case, and that is that Cosby and Weinstein were brought in state court, where the laws of evidence are very different than in federal court, where Combs is. Um, in both the Weinstein and Cosby cases, prosecutors brought on multiple additional accusers as witnesses. And it was on that being improper that both won their appeals. Federal law is much more generous in allowing um, additional accusers to take the stand and speak to what happened to them, even if they're not necessarily named in the indictment. So this may prove to be a hurdle to Combs, should he be in a position to appeal a conviction down the road.
also, Laura, my last question, is it legally misplaced to say that Diddy could end up like other cases of powerful entertainment moguls, as we discussed, Weinstein and Cosby, who eventually had convictions thrown out by state-level Supreme Courts?
Yeah, Combs is in the Combs case, because it's a federal case, he'll have a much harder time appealing a conviction based on what overturned, the Cosby and Weinstein cases. Their convictions were overturned in state court because appellate courts found that the state level prosecutors in both those cases in Pennsylvania and in New York overstepped themselves in calling multiple accusers to the stand who are not named in the indictments themselves. The laws in state courts are tend to be stricter in how much you can pile on, in presenting a case, how many witnesses you can put on to show that this was the kind of behavior the defendant engaged in all the time. So in the Cosby case, if you remember, there were other accusers who came forward and testified before the jury at trial. In the Weinstein case, there were, again, several other accusers not named in the indictment who were able to testify and support the prosecutor's case. This is exactly what state level appellate court then overturned the convictions based on in both cases. Combs is going to have a much harder time um, with that sort of appeal because federal law is a lot more open to allowing additional accusers to bolster the prosecution case.